Hey everybody, Derek here to bring you another video for The Walking Dead Season 6. And what this video is going to be doing is predicting what I think will happen with Carol and Morgan in the Season 6 finale. If you are not caught up with The Walking Dead and you do not want to be spoiled in any way, then I would exit the video now and come back later, because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay. So where we last left off in the television show, Carol left Alexandria. She left everybody a note saying that while she loved them all, she could not kill for them again. She knew that people would always want what Alexandria was. They would want safety, they would want shelter, and these enemies would try to attack them and they would have to keep killing again. Carol feels that this is their future. It's unavoidable. And because she can't kill anymore, she left. Unfortunately, though, Carol ran into a group of saviors. And, while she tried to avoid another killing, and while she tried to rationalize with these men to let her go, to let her keep going, the men knew where she was from. The saviors knew that she was from Alexandria. They were intending to take her back there. And Carol was given no choice again but to kill. And she did kill 4 of the saviors and left 1 wounded. Well, I guess she killed 3, and then Rick finished the 4th guy off. But you get my point. She was unfortunately forced to kill again. And as we left, we had Carol missing and more likely than not wounded, because we had that guy behind the truck holding a knife, and Carol rushed the guy and left a blood trail. So we can only presume that she was wounded, and how severely, we don't know. And Rick and Morgan end up going after her with the savior behind them, and they end up coming upon this this barn where several people are seen dead with their throats slit, and they battle the walkers. They end up running into this guy who's wearing armor and looking for his horse, and Rick unfortunately tries to kill this guy, but Morgan is able to deflect the bullet so that it won't, he hit the gun so it wouldn't hit the guy. And Morgan ended up telling Rick to go back to the community, that he would continue the search for Carol. And that's where we left off. So what's going to happen in the season finale with Carol and Morgan? Well, I think that Morgan is going to try to look for Carol, of course, and I think that he will find her. As we saw in the one sneak peek, Morgan ends up finding a horse, which I presume is the horse that the man in armor was looking for. Now, what the fate of that man is hard to say. Does Morgan find him dead or as a walker? Does the man meet up with Morgan and they make a trade? Or does Morgan just find the horse, leave a note, says, hey, I got your horse, I promise I'll bring it back, and goes off to find Carol? Well, one way or the other, we know that Morgan does take the horse. We do see him riding it in the episode, so we know that no matter what, he is going to take the horse. And I think that he is going to find Carol. And when it comes to Carol's story, I think she is wounded, and I think she is dying. Now, whether she is actually going to die in the episode, I think it's 50-50 between her living and her dying. Because I really think that the problem that Carol is having right now, which we all know, is that she cannot reconcile with killing anymore. But I think she's really going to be in a state of, it's called anomie, if you want, which is a state of, unknowing, not knowing what you're going to do. You feel lost. And, you saw that Carol's tried to avoid killing, but she just can't avoid it. She can't avoid it when she's in Alexandria, and she found that she can't avoid it on the road. And I think it's going to be eating at her. And I think that really she may be on the verge of giving up. I think that she may just sit down and say, you know what, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm just going to sit down and die. Whether she's going to have a conversation with herself, whether Morgan meets up with her and they have this conversation, I don't know. But I think Carol's about ready to give up. After what's happened with her, after having to kill again, I think that sadly she is not going to want to continue with life and may just ask Morgan to leave her. Now, I don't think that Morgan's going to want to do that. I think that Morgan would much rather, save Carol and bring her back and help her through this moment. Well, I think what's going to happen, though, is that wounded savior, we see him in the trailer, walking with the cross, the rosary, Carol's rosary specifically, in his hand, walking through the grass. And I think that he is going to encounter Carol and Morgan at wherever Carol is. I think that he's going to catch up. And, more likely than not, I think he's going to be close to death as well. I think he's bleeding as well. And I think that he's going to, toy with them. I think he's going to, say, well, I got you guys now, ha, 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 taunt them, and Morgan, I think, is going to be given a choice. I think that, the man obviously has a gun, we saw in the previous episode. And the fact of the matter is that I don't think Morgan's stick is going to be able to deflect bullets. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And, one thing that we have not seen with Morgan yet is him confronting a situation where he cannot avoid killing or being killed himself. Because that's always been the issue with, this idea of Aikido, this principle of, not killing. But, it involves a lot of different things. We've seen Morgan say, I'm not going to kill, but I'm not going to let myself be killed either. That's the principle. I'm going to defend myself, but I'm going to do it in a way that doesn't kill you. I'm going to knock you out. I'm going to, find a way to tackle you and tie you up or, whatever, but I'm not going to kill you. Well, every situation that Morgan has encountered so far has not been a situation where he couldn't avoid killing, because the wolves, didn't have guns. They had blades, they had axes, knives. This is something that you can defend yourself against with a stick if you're, combat ready and you know how to defend yourself that way. And Morgan clearly does. And throughout that time, he has never had a situation where he, didn't have to kill, and I think that is going to be different in this season finale, because I think this guy's going to have a gun. And, I think that it's really going to be this challenge to Morgan's beliefs. It's really going to test, is he willing to break his code and kill to survive, or will he die for his own beliefs? Because those are really your options at this point, especially when you're confronted with a situation that you cannot avoid it. And that is my biggest, criticism of Morgan's outlook. I said in one of my previous videos, using the same strategy for everything just can't work. And that's the same thing in real life. You can't always be angry. You can't always be happy. You can't always fix a problem with a hammer or a wrench or a saw or whatever. It takes different tools for different jobs. And that's always been the criticism that I've had with him. And, I think that this is going to be a situation where he can't avoid it. And he has two choices. Either he's going to give in and kill this man to save Carol, or he's going to die. And, maybe Carol might end up killing the Savior, or the Savior might die from blood loss. I'm assuming that his shoulder is bleeding. And he might die of blood loss on his own, or pass out as a result of it. And, Morgan might die to save Carol. I think that's very likely. You know, I could see it going either way. It's really Morgan's choice as to what he wants to do. Because we've seen characters in the past die for their beliefs, in a sense. You know, you saw Dale. Well, while Dale never necessarily, you know, encountered that kind of a situation, we saw Dale in season 2 saying many times, I don't want to live in a world where we're killing each other all the time and not preserving life. That's a world I don't want to live in. And he once told Shane, you know, I may not be long for this world, but at least I know that when I die, I didn't, you know, succumb to its evil effects. And I really feel like if Dale would have survived longer in the show, I don't think he would have, you know, killed, and I think it might have cost him. You see the same thing with Tyrese. You know, you have Tyrese who, you know, is not prone to killing humans or walkers. He really wants to avoid killing anything, whereas everybody else can pretty much kill walkers, you know, with no problems. And we saw him let his guard down and get bit and die. So, you know, you see that characters at times are not willing to take that next step. And if they can't, they die. And that's just their choice. And in many respects, it's admirable that they can do that. You know, dying for beliefs has been something that, you know, has happened in history, whether it's religion, philosophical. We've seen in history people have died for their beliefs. And, you know, you see the same thing in the Walking Dead world. And Morgan has a choice. Morgan either is going to say, well, finally I hit a situation where I couldn't save a life. Kind of parallel to Carol finally reaching a point where she couldn't kill. And that was Morgan. You know, you saw a point, and Morgan even noticed it. You know, when he talked with her after that happened in episode 9, he said, you couldn't. Even though Carol said I should have, he noted that she could not. She had finally reached that point where she could not. I would not be surprised if that same parallel happens in the season 6 finale. That Morgan finally reaches a point where he says, I can't. I cannot save everybody. I have to pick between Carol, someone that I've grown to care about and love and teach, versus this guy who is obviously a bad guy trying to kill us, or myself. Will I stand in front of Carol and take the bullet and die? You know, that might happen too. And I think it's more likely that Morgan would die than Carol. But, you know, I think that could go either way. But I think that there's more likely of a chance that Morgan will probably kill the Savior. And you notice at the end of the last episode that Morgan ended up taking Rick's gun. Rick offered him the gun that he took off of one of the Saviors, and Morgan originally said no. And he's been trying to avoid taking guns, but he does take it. And I think that that really is, you know, and one of my subscribers said something like this in a conversation we were having. This is not my original idea, but somebody said, you know, that Morgan taking that is really symbolic of, you know, this thought that, hey, you know, it may come down to that, and maybe I am still willing to entertain that option to kill if I have to. And I think it's very symbolic of that he will end up doing that. And I think that there is a very good chance that he will kill the Savior and realize that, like Carol, who, you know, has been saying all along, well, I can kill indiscriminately, but then found a point where she couldn't. I think Morgan's going to come to the same conclusion that, you know what, I would prefer not to kill. And I think that Morgan will still try his hardest to never have to kill, but I think he's going to have to accept that sometimes it is something that has to happen. Now, what will happen with Carol and Morgan? Well, I think there's a very good chance that they won't be going back to Alexandria, because one of the things that I was thinking about and this is again through conversations I've had with subscribers, you guys have been offering up some very good ideas and theories and possibilities for season 7 and things that have been coming in the television show. So I want to give you guys a lot of credit. You have really been putting ideas out there that I've never thought of, and I thank you for that. And you guys are really, really awesome. But this possibility that the man that they met in episode 15 that Rick almost shot, that this man is from the kingdom. And I have to wonder if that man might still be alive and that maybe he ends up coming across Morgan and Carol at some point, looking for his horse. Maybe he followed the tracks of the horse and ended up finding it. Maybe there are other people, and that maybe there's a possibility that, because Carol is wounded, that maybe Morgan and Carol, in order to save Carol's life, will go back to the kingdom. And that might be the way that they have segued into introducing them in season 7. I will talk a little bit more about the kingdom in another video, but that is what I think might happen as well. And those are my thoughts on what might happen with Carol and Morgan in the season finale. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm on the right track? Is there something I haven't thought about? Don't be afraid to let me know. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't be afraid to suggest them. Have a very wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.